All right, everybody, we are back with another episode of the What's Next podcast. And you know our podcast. It is about Southern California real estate agents just kind of listening to their journey into this crazy industry. You know me, I'm your host, Levi Casada. And again, we've changed this format this season, which I'm super excited about. So I'm going to introduce my co-host, this beautiful woman coming all the way down and joining us from North County. When I say North County, I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like Temecula, getting that drive down here. But please welcome Tamara Armstrong.
Aww,
let's get a little, there it is, woo, woo, woo.
Aloha nui, Levi.
Oh, thank you for coming all the way.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. And I just got to say, I never meet any of my guests. It's always my beautiful salespeople who bring on these great agents of theirs. And I've already sat down with our guest today for about 10 minutes. I'm like, stop talking. Let's get in here and let's shoot this because it's such an amazing story. So let's just jump right into it. Please welcome the broker owner of New Palace Realty and featured in the best-selling book, Self-Made, Angie Henry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's just jump right into it. I know you're a little nervous. Are you feeling better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is super easy. We're gonna have a good time.
You guys are so fun. So.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
don't
yeah.
worry.
No,
Cheers,
this is all to a good time.
Yes, cheers.
And like
Do
I
you
said,
love our koozie, by the way.
the koozies are awesome.
So cute, right?
Yeah. Well, how do I get one of those? That's what I need.
I know.
All
I'll
right.
mail you one.
So we're gonna do a little icebreaker just to relax a little bit more. You like that voice?
What did
Relax
I say earlier?
Relax a little
Levi
bit
has
deeper.
these sexiest
I so don't.
nightlife
People
voice.
probably turn the channel as soon as they hear my voice. No,
Oh,
just kidding.
stop.
All right, let's start this one. These ones are weird. I don't know. I just picked them out today. We're going to see how it goes. All right. And both of you can answer.
Okay.
I might even throw in some zero.
She's very competitive, so do we have a buzzer? Because I've really been working on my buzzing.
Oh, no. This is all for fun.
Okay.
All right. Would you rather be able to peer into the future, like with a crystal ball, or see what the past was truly like?
See what the past was truly like.
Ooh, I like that answer. Was it a time that you would go back? Like how far back you would go?
I think I would go back to my childhood.
Okay.
Yeah, and just kind of look at it and see how I really was. Like, I think that our childhood is a mirror image of who we are today.
Yeah.
And we're being made and molded into how we are. And just,
true.
for me personally, I think that's I was just so energetic and so audacious and curious.
Yeah.
I remember that about myself, and I always want to know if that really was true.
100%.
I think that that's who I was, but I like to go back and see, like, was I really that way?
Yeah. Okay, so I got a little sidetrack here because this is giving me chills. I'm doing acupuncture, and last night, like I had some bad news, but I went to acupuncture, and she's sitting there, and I'm all good. And I usually acupuncture, if you haven't had it yet, it definitely plays with your emotions. And she was just kind of get me in that thing. And the first thing she said is now she's like, okay, picture yourself as a little boy, 6, 7 years old, and you're going up to him and like hugging. I lost my mind. Like, cause I could visually see that, like you said, like, was I happy? But then I go in pictures and he's like alone, like by himself. And oh my God, I'm crying. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, it's funny you brought that up because I had that experience last night and it's very impactful.
Yeah.
So if you can ever hit
go
that
back,
mind, go back. I would go back and same thing. God, great answer.
Well, now that we're talking about that, I guess I'd go back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have a history, right? We all have a story.
Right.
A lot of people have never heard my story, so that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. I love it.
We all have that. So there's times I'm like, I don't ever want to look back at that. And then there's other times I know that it's because of our past that we are who we are. And so for that, I give God the glory because it's like, gosh, I wouldn't be who I am and have these compassions or have these, perseverance if I didn't
Right.
have those struggles. So, but to be honest, my creative side would say, oh, I want to go to like France back in the like 18th, 17th, 18th
right.
century with the corsets and the,
Yeah.
just for fun.
Well, it's funny. Like I would go back even further. Like I would go back to cowboy.
Me too.
always
I thought of
wanted-
that
Wild
too. 'Cause I've always,
The Wild West. I don't know, and I'm a very. I
all
love
about the guns and the cow and the horses.
I
so
love
like
that.
too.
I don't like being
I'm just
dirty
not
all the
big
time.
on dirt. Thank you. I was just
Oh,
gonna say
yeah.
I don't like the dusty part of that,
yeah.
but I liked everything else.
That'd
so.
be tough for me. All right, here's the next question. Would you rather live in a virtual reality or off the grid?
Off the grid, 100%. Boom. Damn. Sorry,
Boom.
I stepped
No,
over you.
you're good.
You're
It's
good.
That's a no.
whoever
I just
answers.
had
Those are on yours. I was still thinking
I won.
about it.
But it's cool.
Definitely off
It's-
the grid.
What would you say?
Yeah,
I would
what's
probably
yours?
think off the grid.
Off the grid?
Yeah.
I know.
Very
because
natural, just easygoing. Of course, if I didn't have to work anymore.
Of course.
Yeah.
If I'm retired.
We just
I don't
got to pick
think- yeah,
berries and feed
just-
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting because I would like to know answers from people that are in their 20s because we're
that's
we've seen it and
true.
we've lived off the grid.
Right.
That's true.
Like we've been there.
Yeah.
There's the kids these days have never lived off the grid. They're always
Yeah.
so we're moving to a virtual reality
Yeah,
right now,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is kind
No,
of
okay,
scary.
yeah.
for
When
sure.
you put it that, yeah, I just don't want to go virtual anymore. I'm
Yeah.
done. Off the grid sounds
Right.
fun.
Oh my goodness, off the grid. Yeah,
us a
bye.
break.
But you can't find this podcast off the grid, so please
That's
stay on the grid.
Yeah, stay on the grid, guys.
Stay on the grid. All right, a few more here. This one's kind of funny. I don't know why I picked this one, but would you rather have a horse living in your kitchen or have a giant sea turtle living in your bathtub? I think I picked it just because
Because of tea.
of tea over here.
Those that know me know that I love turtles. I'm a turtle freak.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So the sea turtle
Sea
for
turtle.
sure. Yeah. And people don't take baths this day, so they would kind of just be like,
I do. I just took a
Oh.
detox bath.
good for you.
Yeah, to deworm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
And parasites. Yeah, this is really interesting. Good stuff, right?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and heavy metals.
Oh, good.
Interesting. Yeah, fun
love
fun
that.
journey.
I would have a kitchen. I would have a horse in my
The horse in
kitchen.
your kitchen would be fun.
Why? Well, she you
I love horses.
Yeah, horses are.
I did have horses. I used to live in Valley Center
Yeah.
and I had horses, so
I can see.
I love that.
now.
The two opposite. Yeah, we got
Yeah.
the ocean and we got the the
She's
mountains
the
and
mountain
the
girl.
horse. Yeah, that's so cool.
even though I do love beach and things, you just can't really do anything with a turtle. Like horse, you can.
Well, I
Take it
swam
for-
with turtles, so
Well,
once you've experienced that, I don't know. I just love them.
Yeah, it would have to be a big bathtub.
Yeah. That would have to
At
be
least the
that.
That is
kitchen is
true.
pretty. Yeah,
I
as
didn't
long
think
as you don't
about
have a
the
galley
bathtub.
kitchen either,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
a little
You're
horse
absolutely
just get kicked across the kitchen with that horse.
Funny.
Either way, I feel like it'd be a tough one. All right, last one. Would you rather have to hunt for your food or have to grow everything you eat?
I'd grow everything I eat.
That's mine too.
Yeah,
Grow everything.
I grew up hunting and it's great, but I mean, at that point, you're pretty much your same thing. You're not growing your food, but you're having to go and get it. And so, but now it's COVID changed me. I want to be a gardener. So
Me
we're
too.
just, we just
Interesting.
got some planters and we're ready to start putting our next, vegetable garden
I've gotten
together.
all the books now. I'm studying, holistic medicine through plants. Yeah, kind of stuff like that. So
No, it's
COVID's
very cool.
changed all of, I think,
Oh,
our
yeah.
minds
I
of
know.
how
Yeah.
to survive.
Totally.
And yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about surviving. That's perfect. I love it. Let's just segue right into it. Angie, we're here for you. I
Yeah.
want you to let's pour it out. Let's go back to, where are you from?
So I was born in Mexico,
Okay.
in this small town in Zacatecas, which is like I call it the Nebraska of Mexico. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Nobody really knows where it's at. High mountain areas, very, very desert, very small rural town. And my parents had been coming back and forth since the 60s. And some of me and my siblings, some of us were born there, some of us were born here. And right before I was born, my mom was pregnant with me 3 months. She had a 9-month-old baby that passed away from pneumonia
Oh, man.
in Mexico. And she had gone back and forth, back and forth. So she was living there. My dad was here working, sending her money. And baby passed away. She was pregnant with me. And I was born. In Mexico there. And then my oldest brother was going to 6th grade. And the education capped out. That's where there was no more. It was such a small town. You had to go to a different town to go to middle school and stuff. And my mom growing up, she had had the same struggles with education. Like you couldn't continue. She had said, I want my kids to have an education, have an opportunity. And so she said she packed her bags and told my dad, I'm coming to the States. And she had documents. She had her documentations during the Kennedy era. She was able to get her immigration status. And so she was, the legality of it wasn't an issue. It was just more a financial sense for my dad to keep the family there. And so she's like, no, I'm packed up my bags and I came to the States and I want you guys to have an education.
How many siblings?
So it's 6 of us.
6 of you.
6 of us, yeah.
And your mom.
And my mom. So it was at that time it was, so then I was born, and then my sister was born, and then it was like a little bit after. It was like I was born, and then my sister, and then she was pregnant again, and she was like, that's it. Like, I think around that time when my brother was in 6th grade, she was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I already lost a baby.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
the living conditions here suck,
Yeah.
and I need, if I have documents to be in the United States, why not? And so she came, and, my mom was a fighter. She was like, I'm going to work. My dad, I don't know if my dad gave her this, like, in my head, I think that this is the conversation they had. My mom passed almost 20 years ago, so I can't really have this conversation with her. But I always think that my mom said to him, like, I'm going to go, but I'm going to work. Because she always said to us, like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to work. I'm not going to get welfare, because there was a lot of people in her time that could get welfare or get assistance or whatever. And she's like, no, I'm going to be here. I'm going to make the best out of it and give you guys the best education that I can. And so she worked in greenhouses. She worked in, like in greenhouses with nurseries and stuff. And my dad worked in flower fields, in the Encinitas flower fields where we grew up. And it was very interesting because my dad worked 7 days a week, every day. We didn't really see him. And my mom worked 5 days a week. She was gone like at 7 o'clock in the morning, came home late at night. Yeah. She'd have an allergic reaction to like the chemicals, and they would close up the greenhouses and do like all the chemicals and stuff, the fertilization and all the treatments and stuff. And she'd always get allergic reactions to it, but she never called out sick. She would get like 1 week of vacation. She was just always such a trooper. And my dad too. My dad was always super hardworking. He had the flower fields, and then his boss had him manage. He said, here's a couple acres, grow your own flowers. Yeah. And, I guess he must have seen him struggling with so many kids. We had a small, tiny little house, and I know, what was your question? How was my
No, this is great. You're doing great. Like you're telling us the whole story, but like I just want to pause for a second, because I feel like your culture, like I'm half Hispanic too. Okay. Like I grew up in that same household. It was like Hispanic culture Mexican culture is very hardworking. Yes. So I don't know where that stereotype came. I mean, like you said, you don't call in sick. No. You go to work. And wow, like you were kind of like by yourself, like almost like raising yourself, not raising yourselves, but you guys were fending,
We did.
I was going to say, who fed you guys?
So
who took care of you?
It was interesting because when my mom, when we came, she had my youngest brother, and he was born here, and she like immediately started working, and they brought my cousin, who was 12 years old, to take care of us.
Wow.
And it was my oldest brother, sister, and brother. So there's like 3 older siblings, and then it was the second set of siblings, because we had that gap. Everybody was like about 2 years apart, except for me and my brother, because the baby that we had lost, that my parents had lost, was right in between me and my brother. So me and my brother were 4 years apart. So my brother, my sister, and my brother, the 3 older ones, and then it was me, my younger sister, and my brother. And so I was like kind of in charge of them. Yeah. But we had my cousin that came, and she grew up with us. We considered her our sister because her parents just said, okay, they were so poor, they let her just come and take care of us.
Oh, good. It was a female watching.
It was a female.
I've always said it, because that 12 years old, she was a girl. She came and she was like her sister, and she would, walk us to school, and, and as soon as we could, I remember I was being in kindergarten, and I didn't speak any English. I just was like she was like my older sister. But as soon as we got a little bit older, she started working, and we were kind of just free reign, and we were in the, Encinitas beach area. Yeah. So the Moonlight Beach was our playground. We'd go,
And we go.
That's cool.
My husband says, "Oh my gosh, poor you! Wow, what a hard life." And I'm like, "It was hard. It was hard because
hard. Yeah.
you know we'd get off the bus and instead of going home, we'd go to the beach and hang out and eat our lunch or go do our homework." Or just go see what, who was hanging out or what was going on until it was nightfall. Because our house was so tiny that what were we going to go do? We didn't have, it was just so small. It was like a 2-bedroom house for all these kids.
Wow.
And me and my cousin, the one that came to take care of us, we slept in the sofa sleeper in the living room.
2 of you.
The 2 of us.
Wow.
And because my sister and my oldest sister and my younger sister slept in the other room, and then all my brothers slept in like the other little room. It was like a little add-on, like an add-on to the bedroom.
Yeah.
Like it was like a little shed, and they opened the door. And so that was that, and there was like 2 bedrooms connected, and then it was my parents' room. And I, nowadays I look at it, and I had this conversation with my youngest son and my husband, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, poor you." I'm like, you know what? I didn't have a bedroom. I didn't have my own bed. I didn't have my own dresser.
Yeah.
I remember having my personal belongings in like a little box, and I would like stick it under the bed, and I could never have friends over.
Yeah.
I could never have a sleepover. I would just, people say, "Oh, where do you live?" "Oh, that house down the street." "Oh, well, let's go to your house,"
Yeah.
And it was hard. And we had we didn't have a bathtub. Our oven didn't work. The roof would leak so bad. We'd have buckets throughout the house. When it would rain, the water would just come in through the living room. Literally, our living room was probably like this size or smaller, and the water would just start gushing in. I remember we had a blue carpet, and it would just be soaked. And we'd have to open the door and the windows to let the water out because it was so bad. And we had one closet, and it was moldy.
Oof.
So you're like, how do we live in these conditions?
Right. And especially as a female, I mean, it's very easy for a male to like undress and like dress in front of even other females, like your siblings and stuff. But as a woman, like I have a 13-year-old, like I know, like door shut. I'm like, okay, I got to knock. Like, because there's that, she's growing into a woman. Like I want to make sure that she has, so like, when you're sitting there wide open, no privacy, no closet, like coming out of the shower, like it's just always
and so my husband's just like, "Oh yeah, well, poor you live by the beach," and my son, I told my son, "You know what? You're so lucky because you have your own room. You come home, you close your door, and you do whatever you want in your room. You have your computer, your phone, everything, your own bed, your own closet." I go, "Imagine if you came home and you have to go sit in the living room." And if you want to stay up late, I mean, if your family wants to stay up late, you can't go to sleep. If you have to get up early in the morning, like my mom would get up early in the morning to go to work. I would have to wake up early in the morning. I would hear her she had no regard for us. She'd be over there banging pots and pans. She'd turn on the radio.
Oh my gosh.
And she would like be playing music and everything. And I'd be like half asleep, but like, gosh,
Yeah, I'm up again.
Yeah, I'm up again and stay up late.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I never really thought about that until I got older and I really kind of, revisited those thoughts, like my upbringing and where I came from and how my childhood was.
Yeah. And you know what? And it's not that like when they're saying it, that you had it easy. It wasn't that. It's like because you got to be by the beach. But everybody had their playground when they were kids. Like for me, it was the desert. Okay. I grew up around mountains and stuff, and we would take our bikes off road and be with the rattlesnakes and stuff like that. But that was our ocean. That was our playground. So your playground was just the ocean. I mean, I guess people can see how they like, oh, you're lucky, but that's just where you were, and you can go.
It was like your escape.
Your escape. That's what you did. And then like when it got dark out, you got home. You made sure to get home before,
before the
lights turn on. I love it. I love it. Okay, so now you're growing up, and we were talking about this out there. Is you're 12 years old, and you're talking about you getting job now.
Yeah. So we were always looking for money, like how to make money. I was always just such an entrepreneur growing up. Thinking back at it, like we had fruit trees, pomegranates, lemon trees, macadamia nuts on the property that, my parents on this little house. And it wasn't ours, it was the owners, but they were there. And I would, spend hours breaking the macadamia nuts, putting them in little Ziploc bags to sell them for like 10 cents for the tourists that were walking down the street in Encinitas. And I'd put a little table and I'd sell them for 10 cents. And then once I'd have, a couple bags sold or whatever, I'd tell my sister, let's go to the store and go buy some candy or whatever. And my sister is completely opposite than me. We look like twins, but she's a total introvert. So she was always really shy. She'd always whatever she wanted, I would always okay, let me go look for some money. She's like, oh, we want a pizza for Friday. And I'm like, okay, let me see what I could sell. And, let me sell clothes, shoes, whatever I could get my hands on. One time my neighbor had, back in the day, for some reason, people wouldn't fix their dogs, right? I don't know if you guys remember that, but dogs would always have puppies. They wouldn't get, spayed or neutered. Yeah. They wouldn't get spayed or neutered, so the dog would always be having puppies.
Wow.
And the neighbor, Don Jesus was his name, he'd be like, this dog had her puppies again. I don't know what to do with them. I'd be like, okay, well, if you want, I'll get rid of them for you. I was like thinking, ching, I'll make some money. I'll go sell them.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you know the lumber yard. Now it's like the fancy lumber yard. That was just barely brand new. So I would take the puppies, put them in a box, stand in the corner. And I don't even remember if this is true, but I remember writing $10 for the puppies.
For the puppies.
$10 each. Sold like that. Come home and Don Jesus would be like, so you got rid of the puppies? I'm like, I told you. Done. Yeah. Sold them. And Friday night, my sister, okay, let's go rent a movie and get some pizza. And we, just so we'd have extra money to do things that we couldn't even ask our parents for because I couldn't.
They didn't have any more than they could spare.
They could
right?
spare.
Yeah.
And I couldn't dare even to ask my mom and say, think about asking her. Like, oh, I want this, or I want, Mom, why aren't you giving me this? No, I would just have to try to figure it out on my own and make things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. You had that mentality early.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of gotten you here. So you start your first job. Your first job was not just babysitting and stuff, but your actual first paying job.
My first paying job, I was 13 years old. I worked at a restaurant called the Pepper Mill.
Okay.
And my older brother was working there. He got me a job. I was 13. My younger sister, she was 12. We both got jobs. We both got hired. And the owner was just like, if they say anything, just say you're 14 and 15.
Oh, yeah. No background checks.
No background checks. And the surprising thing was that the hourly rate was $2.35 an hour.
How much would that just blow your kid's mind?
I know. But he said, the pay rate is $2.35, but because you guys are minors, I'm going to pay you guys $2 an hour.
Oh,
your face.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it's like,
we're like, we'll take it.
Yeah, you had to.
You had to. You're like,
point.
okay,
yeah,
we'll take it. So we, started working there. During the summers, we'd walk to work, take the bus, whatever, and we'd have just free money to buy makeup, take the bus, do whatever we wanted without having to bother my mom. And I was starting to tell you out there that it was really sad because my dad was a manager he had 200 people under him, immigrants, started working, worked really hard. He had all these acres of flower groves that he would take care of. And all of a sudden he became an alcoholic. Can't get up and go to work. All of a sudden. And I've asked my dad's still alive, and I'm like, Dad, what happened?
Yeah, what was that transition?
How did that happen? And he said that it was a lot of the workers would just give him bottles, oh, here, here, boss, here's a bottle. Yeah. And I see that in our industry.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. We see that, and it's a common thing, but I'm always real careful. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never want to be like my dad.
Yeah.
And I always, try to hold myself back. I'm like, okay, thank you. This is gonna last me a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I'm always mindful of that because I'm like, that really put a big spin on our family.
It changed the whole dynamic.
It changed the whole dynamic. My dad got so bad that he couldn't work. The boss that he had worked for ever fired him. And I remember going to the employment office with him, trying to get him up to go with him. I was like the translator for them always, because my older siblings are already kind of older than me. My oldest sister had gotten married and they were all doing their own thing. And so it was just always me. I was always very, I don't know, bossy or very just involved in everything.
Yeah,
mischievous.
just making sure that everybody was doing the right things.
Yes,
You know,
very,
you were just
very involved. And so I would take my dad. No, Dad, we got to go to the employment, office and go get your disability or your employment or whatever. And my mom ended up just booting him out of the house. Wow. And he went to go live in Mexico. She's like, you got to go live with your parents. Like, get out of here. And so he went to go live in Mexico with his parents. And he took my youngest brother with him, which was like 9 at the time.
Yeah.
And so then at that point, we were like, struggling. I remember my mom, we belonged to the Catholic church there. I remember the specific time that she went to go get a box of food, and it was $11. I don't know why I always have this visualization with numbers, but like it was $11
for a box of
for the box of food.
Okay.
They said it was like the share box. You can either pay your donation, it was like $11, or volunteer somehow. So my mom was like, I don't have money to pay, so I'll volunteer. So we would mop the church's basement. Me and my sister and my mom go and mop the basement and stuff. They'd give us a box of like non-brand generic cheese and powder milk and
powder milk.
Yeah, powder milk. And life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So my mom would make this thing she would call it postre, which just means dessert. And it was like this like custard with the powdered milk and cinnamon and I don't know what other ingredients. She would just like carnation. I don't know what she would make, but it was like this custard kind of like, I don't know, she just made it up or somebody gave her this recipe, but it was like kind of casserole. And I remember it would sit there like the whole week, and we'd be hungry. And she'd be like, go get some more postre. We'll just go get some more postre. And we're like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're going to eat.
Just eat dessert.
There's dessert.
Cinnamon makes everything better.
Yeah, cinnamon makes everything better. And that's what we would eat for that was like our treat. And so for me, just being like, this isn't right. Like, I need to do better. I need to figure this out. I need to do better. And so, so once I started working, started getting some money, and, just started growing up. I started saving up, and I was telling you earlier that, I felt like I was already kind of a grown up in a sense. But a little bit before that, to kind of segue in how I got into real estate was my oldest brother, my sister got married. My brother went into the Navy. He was like, it was a hard time for everybody. So my oldest brother went into the Navy, and he was just, for the first 4 years, he was super diligent about not spending his money, anything. He saved up $10,000. And he told my mom, you need to buy a house. You need to get, the F out of that little, it was just so bad. That house was just falling apart. It was just so bad. He's like, you guys we need to buy a house. We need to buy a house. And of course, me, at that time, I was about 15 years old. I remember it was like, I took my mom to go drop off the earnest money deposit in Escondido at the escrow office. I was the interpreter. I was there when the realtor called her and said, we found the house. It was on a Tuesday afternoon, and she called her and said, you need to tell your parents to come and take a look at this house. It was
so you put the earnest money down before?
Well, before, right after.
Okay.
So we were looking at the homes, and then the realtor calls and said, you need to tell your parents, tell your mom, and at that time my dad had come back, and because it was like 12, he was over there for 2 years. So about 14, 15, he had already come back, was already working again. My brother had saved up the money. So I was about 15 years old, 15 and a half or so. And then they're like, the realtor's like, her name was Amelia. She's like, you need to tell your parents, get in the car right now, go look at this house. And it was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath in San Marcos. And that's all, it was like $125,000.
Nice.
And it was, I know, right? And my parents were like barely squeaking by to qualify for that. And so I went, we looked at it, and my mom really wanted a 2-bathroom. She's like, I'm tired of having 1 bathroom our entire life. I really want a 2nd bathroom. And so the realtor's like, look, you can always make a 2nd bathroom. Like, this house is like perfect. It was in a cul-de-sac. It's right up your price point. We had looked at other homes. They're like in kind of bad areas. And then we looked across the way, and Cal State San Marcos was being built. And my mom, in her day, she wanted to be a teacher. She looked and she's like, oh my God, really? It's like the owner of the house was a teacher. And she's like, yeah, I'm a teacher. And that over there, that construction site, that's a university. Mom was like, oh my gosh, so my kids could go to, I'm done. Like my kids can go to school here. And she's like, okay, we'll take it. I don't care if it only has one bathroom. Like that's what sold her on it. She's like, okay, we'll build a bathroom, whatever. So my parents, we buy the house. I took them to go take the earnest money deposit, walk through the whole paperwork. And it's funny because about 5 years ago, I came across all of the whole paperwork, the escrow documents, everything. We just can't find the last name of the realtor that helped them. I found the copy of the check.
Wait, you have their first name though?
I had the first name. Her name was Amelia, and she worked for a Coldwell banker.
Well, we might have to track this down.
I know. I know. I've looked, and ever so often I look back and I'm like trying to find, and I had the company, everything. So, we went back and, I looked at papers and stuff and I still have them, but it's such a good story. But once my mom, I say my mom because at that time everybody was kind of still butthurt. My dad was still a recovering alcoholic. He was still going through his phases. He was working, but everybody was still kind of mad at him. And we were like, okay, whatever. And I just remember that walk of pride that my mom had, like when she moved in, she started a garden and she became a U.S. citizen and she got involved with the church, now she's leading the community group. She's
part of the neighborhood now.
She's part of the neighborhood.
Yeah,
she
incredible.
felt like part of the before when we were renting, it was always like, hush, 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 don't make too much noise. The landlord's gonna kick us out because we have too many kids. And you can't tell the landlord that the water is coming in because he's gonna kick us out. Because my parents' biggest fear is like, who's gonna rent to us with so many kids?
Yeah.
And the rent is gonna be astronomical. And so they'd be like, here, the house sucks, but we're by the beach, That was and so it was always, that was our trade-off.
I think that's a big fear with renters, even to this day. Like you don't want to bother the landlord with any little thing, and so you just live with it because you're like, I want to be here. I don't want to.
I don't want to be. I don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah.
So she would always. So now that it was her house, it was like, I'm gonna have a garden. I'm gonna have flowers. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and it was great. So then we all, had. Jobs. We changed to San Marcos High School, and we went from San Diego to San Marcos, and I hated it. I was like, all my friends are in San Diego. The house is great. For the first time, I had my own bed. Wow. I didn't have my own room because I still had to share with my sister. But we bought our own furniture. We bought our own bedspreads. Wow. We bought everything. We bought our own, 2 little twin beds. We put them side by posters. We decorated our room the way we wanted it. And we were like, we're grown up,
Yeah.
And, here's Angie. She had a boyfriend down in Encinitas. Says, I want to move out. Yeah. I'm a grown up. I want to move back to Encinitas. She moves back. What age
was this?
16.
16.
Yeah.
I was 16, and I thought I was like on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like
you had it all figured out. You had it figured out. Yeah, you've lived the hard part. Now it's time to start my own life.
I've made money. I can support myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I want to move back to Encinitas, move in with my boyfriend, have a baby, have a little fantasy life. I didn't want to continue to be a burden on my parents. Like, I knew that they were struggling, and it was like I'm like, I can do this on my own. So I thought I had it all figured out. And of course it ended up being a really bad relationship. I was 16. My son's dad was 17. We hadn't finished high school. We were, just so different. Kids.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be just really bad relationship where I had to have a restraining order on him. Domestic violence, just all kinds of that's a whole other podcast of just that chapter of my life.
Well, let's talk. We won't dive deep into it, but at what point, because as I know you now, at one point you hit rock bottom and you said, this is enough.
Yes.
At what point, how old was your son? And you were like, I'm getting out of here. This is what's better for us. Because I can't imagine, it's hard for me as a male to say this, but you're in such a, what you felt like you're grown up, you're in a loving relationship, and then everything turns sour. It's like, I don't want to leave it because I know truly, like I'm still loved, but you know, I can't, for my son and for myself, like I fear from our lives at this point.
Right.
What made you like get up and just, I'm out?
You know, it was really interesting because, you know, back in the days, it was Oprah shows, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at 3:00, you'd watch the Oprah show. And I remember she had a guest that said that she was going through a really bad relationship. And what she had done was she had saved up. And she would go to the store and all the chains that she would have, she would save it or hide it from her her abuser, her husband or her spouse, whatever. And she would save it and she'd start like collecting money, like hiding money so that she would have a savings so she was ready. So it was like strategic. And so I knew that my parents were super mad at me because I left the house. My dad was still a recovering alcoholic. My mom was like super upset. Like she thought the world of me, that I was just going to be, you know, someone really, you know, successful. And then here I am ruining my life, having a kid. I had ruined my life. Like they just threw me to the wayside.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't depend on my parents. And so I was like, you know, what do I do? So I remember listening to that advice from that guest, that Oprah. Yeah, Oprah. Wow. And I was just thinking, okay, I know I can't just pick up and go. I don't have nowhere to go. And I even had looked at like women's shelters. I looked at, you know, getting on like low income housing for like, you know, for single moms, and just looking at what can I do. And I remember I was able to finish my high school. I graduated from high school the same year I was supposed to graduate. And I started going to Palomar College, and I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a school teacher. So I was like, okay, my mom wanted to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. So I was going to Palomar College, working, and I was just trying to be away from that household as much as I could.
Yeah.
I had gotten my driver's license when I was 18. You know, I couldn't get it when I was 16 like everybody else because my parents wouldn't sign for me. I couldn't do it. So once I got my license, I was able, and then I changed jobs. I had a job where I was getting a little bit more money. And I heard that segment with Oprah, and I was just like thinking like, okay, I got to start planning my escape, like my exit. God, like what's my exit? Scary, I know, right? And I was like, I just turned 18, and I was like, I can't continue to live this. My son can't continue to live with this violence and this abuse here. Yeah. And so I just started little by little planning. Okay, if I go to school, I'll get financial aid. I was able to put my son in like they had the child care programs. So I was able to get him in during the times I was in school, and then afterwards I would work from 1 to 8 from 1 to 8 I would work, and I would take classes in the morning. So I'd watch him, you know, the school would watch him, and then I would, until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd go. I was able to convince my mom at that time to watch him at night. And like in the evening when she got home, over, please, Mom, watch him. She'd watch him, and then I'd in San Marcos, and then go back home to my abusive relationship in Encinitas. And then I was just living through that for, you know, as long as I could. I think probably till finally said, okay, I bought myself a car. I have myself a job. I had to go back to my parents and went to a counselor that Palomar College had. I think it was through like a domestic abuse counseling, that I was like, okay, I need to talk to someone. And they're like, well, you need to talk to your parents and tell them that you'll pay rent, and maybe they'll allow you to come back. And that's what I did. I remember sitting down a yellow notepad and sitting down with my mom and dad, like, you know, like a grown up, and say, Mom, Dad, I really need you guys to help me. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. I'm offering you guys $300 a month in rent. Like, please take me back, please. Yeah. And my mom was like, we don't want you here. You know, once you left, you left. Oh, and I was like,
is that a cultural thing?
I think it was a culture. It was, my mom was just hard like that. Like, you had everything, and I'm very like that too. So
yeah. No, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, some cultures, you know? For sure. It's cultures. It's like you left the nest. You're, you know, we'll talk about like, how did that affect you, and like going into like building your own business and everything too, right?
So then they came back, and You know, ex-boyfriend was trying to kill me.
Oh,
Trying to kill me. I'll put it that way. And it was just a nightmare. It was a nightmare for my parents. It was a nightmare for my family because now I brought this problem with me to their household. And it was just bad all around. I was able to get restraining orders, still work through that, able to, you know, hey, I'm a working citizen, Mom, please, you know, take me back. And I remember I had signed up for like a low income housing. And I remember they said it was going to take about 2 years. So that was like my next plan. Like, okay, once I get into this housing, I'll be able to leave or whatever. And it was going to be short term is what I told my mom. Like, let me just get into this housing. And so when they finally called me, like I was telling you guys, they called me and I drove by it and I started crying. And I'm like, do I really want to put myself and my son in a low-income housing? There's nothing wrong with it.
right.
But I didn't want to be that stereotype or that stigma of being a teenage mom. And now I'm living off of subsidized housing. And now my son is going to grow up in this subsidized housing where this is what we know and this is what we become.
Right.
And now it becomes a cycle. And I'm like, no, I'm going to continue going to school. I'm going to continue
I got
pushing.
chills. Yeah, that's incredible.
Right? I mean, I was only 18, 19 years old. I could have said, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
could have easily just, it was the easy, nothing about your life has been easy so far. Like, you were like, easy, forget that. Like, I'm going to go and make look at where we're at today. Like, let's fast forward. So you've said no housing.
No housing. I stay at my mom's. I'm still going to school. I take a business class at Palmer College, and it really opens up my mind on a business environment. And I looked at like, gosh, like how much would I make if I was a teacher? And that's where my heart was like, I really want to be a teacher. But now I'm a single mom. I have plans of buying my own house. I really need to be able to make more money. So I looked at like, what if I start a business? So that was like something that sparked my interest about being an entrepreneur and just entrepreneurial mindset and stuff. And so I was probably with my parents up until I was 21. And then I met someone. I right away got married. It was like, and you know, it was like this, okay, somebody came along. It was an older guy, a little bit older than me. And it was like, okay,
Is this your husband now?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to, but I just had to ask because I'm like, oh, I know her husband. I want to make sure.
No, it's not.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's not. We have a story. It's a long story, right?
Yeah,
to where
it's all
I'm
good.
at now.
I love it.
So I go from one bad relationship to another bad relationship.
Oh, sorry, guys.
And
That's
then
okay. You weren't in here when I said keep your phone silent.
No,
Keep your phone. It's always every podcast so far I've had phones go off.
somebody's phone goes off.
It's down the crack.
That's so funny. You can't even really hear it.
So
an alarm.
I'm in this bad relationship, completely, you know, just older guy. We get married. It was like this fairy tale story that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
You know, this fairy tale story. Always looking for this fairy tale. And you're like, you know, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I had started, we started working. We bought a little mobile home out in Fallbrook. And I want to start a business. And I'm working. I'm trying to find what can I do. And he was working, doing, he was in a shipping and receiving, doing shipments for a warehouse, electronics warehouse. He'd come home mad, always a grumpy man, and just come home mad. Oh, I can't finish my orders because I can't fulfill the orders because of the equipment that we need is on back order. And he's like, it's these cases that he'd have to go to a house and the family that was like these sewn cases. Like manufactured cases. I love this story. And so it was like, and I said, really? And he's like, yeah. I go, bring me one. What does it look like? It's like, and that same time I was like rattling through my mind, like what business can I start? And I was still going to college, still going to Palomar. And I was working at this finance company down in Carlsbad and I hated it. It was a great job. It was a comfy corporate job. I was working, making good money, but I was bored out of my mind. I was like, I am just bored out of my mind. I know I have more potential than just sitting at a desk my entire day.
I'm just sitting here.
So not Angie.
I know,
Yeah.
just the
No.
passion that she's
No.
telling the story with is
Yeah.
now I can see. Yeah, you can't be.
I can't sit still.
bored.
I like challenges. So yeah, I know. So then I'm just like, I need to. I would just sit there thinking about what business to start. Can I? That time we had bought a house. I had a garage. I'm like, can I start a business in my garage? And back then it wasn't a cool thing like it is now. It was just like, you needed. I looked it up. I went to city. I'm like, what can I start that is non-invasive to like the community? Like as long as you don't have a retail store.
Yeah.
It was like a home-based business. So. My ex-husband comes back and looks at and shows me it's like a case with like zippers and labels, and I'm like, how much are they paying for this? Oh, X amount. And I'm like, okay, and you guys and you're back order on this. It wasn't like this like rocket science thing. It was a fabric made case with a zipper and
Huh.
and
What did it hold?
it hold. So it was a hold. It was called a soft case. It held equipment for the guys that would go on the telephone poles. Test line
okay.
equipments for the telephone lines.
Yeah.
So whenever it had like a hook, and they would hook it onto their belt, and it would hold the equipment.
Yeah, like the phone or whatever.
The phone
yeah.
line
Yeah.
testers, and whatever line was faulty.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? So so then I'm like, well, my mom had a sewing machine growing up, and we used to make our own clothes, right? So I'm like, I know how to sew. Let me figure this out.
What?
So I never took a formal sewing class, but I'm like, I can figure this out, So I took it all apart, took the pattern out, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like if I start a business doing this. Remember, I had taken a business class at college. I knew everything. I'm the
You knew it all. You're on top of the world.
I
She's on
knew it
top of the
all. I
world.
knew it all. So I'm like, I can figure this out. So I would go to the library and, check out books on business, doing this. And I went to LA and I sawed off a Yellow Pages, because back then Yellow Pages were attached to
Yep,
the payphones.
Payphones.
Well, let's back it up here real quick. Can you explain what to the viewers, just in case, a payphone and the Yellow Pages? Nobody knows that. That's
Okay.
what's so funny. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it used to be a public telephone.
Yeah, yeah. And you had to pay for it? What?
You pay a quarter, or if you're making a long distance call, you pay a little
That's
bit
so
more.
funny. That's
so
and it was a
funny.
public phone that you could use.
It's funny we have to explain
Yeah,
this.
I
now.
know,
It's
right?
Right?
This is
Yeah, yeah.
really-
But all the big sewing companies were in LA, and all the fabrics and the zipper companies and Velcro. And so there wasn't internet like there is now. You can just Google something and be like,
Right.
oh, I need a zipper company. Oh, I need a, Velcro company. So I'm like, where the mecca of the fashion
Fabrics,
industry
yeah.
was in downtown LA. So I went by downtown LA, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a hold of the materials to make the sample for this company. So I'm like, I'll take a Yellow Pages. I'll take a quote. So I went to a payphone,
Yeah.
and they had a Yellow Pages, which is a book that contained like a directory of all the
Everybody.
companies.
And it just, it's crazy. It just hung there too.
just hung
and
there.
Your house phone number was just that
It
was the public. Yeah, it was public.
You're
yeah.
looking for someone. Oh, the Brown family. Oh, let me look
Yeah,
at
They
it.
were the
yeah.
white pages. So you're the white and the yellow.
The yellow.
remember?
The yellow was all the businesses.
Businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a furniture store, you'd go to the F and
Yeah.
or fabric or whatever.
That's why people, if you see AAA plumbing or
Yes.
something like that,
Yeah.
they want to be first
In
in
the-
the Yellow
Yes,
Pages.
the
Yeah.
Yellow
Yes.
pages. Yeah.
So that was a mentality for
Yeah.
that. So then I just sawed it off, took it home, and just started calling all the companies and saying, okay, I need this, I need that. And I was still working at the company where I was at, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to start this business. I would go on the weekends and everybody was closed. I'd call in sick and go. And so finally I was able to gather all these materials, do this fabric, this pattern or this sample, send it back. I wrote this like professional, how do you write a business letter? Like,
Wow.
took samples from the library books, Again, I'm still at Palomar College,
Yeah.
second, third year. At that time, I think I'd been like, however many years,
Wow.
a 10-year plan at community college, right? So I'm
We've all
like
been
taking,
there.
all these community
Yeah.
classes. And so then the owner of the company says, I'll give me an order of 100 pieces.
Now you're like,
Oh my gosh, I'm quitting my job.
yeah.
That's amazing.
I quit my job. I got a small business loan on a little Honda that I had for $8,000. Again, I'm real good with numbers, right?
Yeah.
Just visual. And so $8,000 small business loan, went up to LA, bought a couple of the Juki sewing machines, set up a little shop in my garage, quit my job. Like, I was like, peace out, I'm out of here. You guys are so boring. Like, I need some music. I need like something. And I started a shop in my garage. At that point, I was probably, I think I was like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I had my second son. My son was 3 years old at the time, my second one. And
with the grumpy husband.
With the grumpy husband.
Yeah.
And I ended up adopting his son. I had a 5-year-old, he had a 2-year-old. And so I adopted his son, which was 2 at the time. So we had 3 kids together and we're raising. And I quit my job. I said, I can't take one more day of that boring job ever again. And the commute just was terrible. I'm got my $8,000 loan. I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I had to hire older ladies to come and work for me, because again, I wasn't a professional, so I just knew whatever I had was able to pull off.
Yeah.
And so I, looked around. Who knows how to do industrial sewing? One person to another person. Ended up hiring 5 women to work in my garage and sewing these cases. And it was that was like for months, a couple of years. We outgrew the garage. For like maybe 2-3 years, I ended up getting a little shop in downtown Fallbrook. Took it to downtown. I was like 27, 28 years old.
So cool.
Yeah.
So people tell me that nowadays are like, oh, I can't figure out my life. I'm like, well, you got it too easy. You haven't been out in the world. You haven't struggled. You don't. For me, it was always like, I guess I get bored easily, or I'm very independent, that I never like to ask anybody for anything. That I always like to make my own way and always get my own money. And I don't like to depend on someone to provide for me. So I always just figure things out. So that worked out well. We were good. We're doing, business. Relationship was all right. It was okay. It hadn't gone really, really bad. It wasn't until the market kind of crashed in it was during the Gulf War, the Gulf War.
Right.
We went to, and then
90s,
ladies,
late
2000s.
Late 90s, right?
Yeah, late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
It was like the 2000s. And we started seeing that business start to plummet because the product that we were providing was being shipped in from China.
Oh, yeah.
So we started getting that whole influx of overseas, and we couldn't compete on the pricing and everything.
Yeah.
And they were 10% of what we were offering.
Wow.
So it took a turn. So then I reinvented myself, started a new business, pivoted, started a new business. I started doing embroidery. I purchased an embroidery machine. I started doing logos, started going to festivals, flea markets, swap meets. Did that for a couple of years. That was a great business. I loved it. It was great. I talked to people. Relationships started getting bad and bad. I was always very outgoing, talking to people. And my ex-husband was a very introvert. Wasn't very social.
These men can't keep up with you.
Can't keep up with
what
me.
it is.
I know, right?
It's
Can't keep
okay.
up.
I
And
don't
so-
know. I don't think she found it.
I know. I think I found the one.
know.
We'll get to it. Right?
Okay.
So then we're just turn, and the business was doing great. And he's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to Texas. I don't want to be here. I can't handle this business anymore. I'm going to take the business to Texas. And at that time, I was thinking we're doing so good. Business is good, but he wasn't happy in the relationship. I wasn't happy. I was just going along with it for the sake of the kids and, trying to make the best out of it. I'm a fighter. I'm like, I do whatever I can.
Right.
But the relationship was not good. And business in the 2008 crash, business fell again, and he was just not happy. Okay, fine. You want to go to Texas? Go to Texas. I may catch up with you. Maybe, maybe not. I had gotten my real estate license in 2006.
Oh.
When we were working the embroidery business.
Yeah.
It was going so good. I had kind of an epiphany. At that time, my mom's like, this is really good, but I don't see you selling hats the rest of your life.
Right.
And I'm like, you're kind of right, Mom. Like, I would sell hats. Like, I would do embroidery on the spot. Like, we'd go to like street fairs and like swap meets, and I'd take like dozens of hats, and I'd be like, what do you want? You want New Venture escrow? Yeah, okay, here. I'd put it right there, New Venture escrow. And how much you want? A dozen hats. Crank them out and be done. And I
without a machine. I mean, like
it was
like
an embroidery machine.
But like now they do it like machine me, like they put in the digital thing.
Yes, and it was it was like that. That's what I had.
You did have one of
Yeah,
those.
I did. So it was a computer.
A computer.
But I would do it right there on the spot.
That's incredible.
And so it'd be like, okay, in and out, and then I was like, okay. So Mom was like, yeah, I can't believe you're doing this. I decided I wanted another child. So I had my third son, was a son, and from my ex-husband. So I had two kids with him. At this point,
Are you all boys right now?
All boys. All boys.
God bless you.
Yeah, I know. So it's, it was like so many things happening, right? So the relationship was going bad. My son was little. The kids are getting older.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. He's wanting to go to Texas. I don't want to go to Texas. My mom passed away. Sudden, just traumatic diagnosis of like stage 4 cancer. Oof. That was like so hard.
Yeah.
And I just gotten licensed that year because my mom was like, you need to start looking for something else. And I'm like, well, what if I got into real? She's like, yeah, you should do that. So I decided, I remembered how much joy that brought her. Yeah. And I thought,
buying her house.
Yeah. It was 2005. I made myself a resolution, like, I need to get my real estate license. And it was from a New Year's resolution. By March, I had my real estate license. Like, I put myself something out and I do it. Like, I'm just like, if this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do.
That's amazing.
I mean, I don't know. I just kind of have to do that sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to do that. I knew that the relationship was not good. And I'm like, and I knew that in order for me to have my own income, I had to start to pivot.
Yeah.
You always have to kind of always be pivoting.
Yeah.
Just like
this industry.
Yeah, in this industry.
Yeah.
So, the Oprah Winfrey strategy, find your exit strategy, find how you're going to get out of this relationship. So I was already, okay, this relationship isn't working out. What's my exit strategy? So I'm like, okay, if I get my real estate license, listen to my mom, get my real estate license, start my own business, and have the ex-husband just have him do the embroidery business on his own. We kind of just do our own thing, which worked out, because he's like, I'll take the embroidery business to Texas. I was already doing really good by 2008 in real estate. I just hit the ground running, like right away. First year.
You?
Me?
Yeah. Of course.
I know.
Yeah, just crushing it out of the gates.
Right. The broker was like.
Who'd you start with?
I started with Remax.
Okay.
And it was their first year. They took on new agents.
Did you join a team or were you solo?
It's solo. Teams weren't popular back then.
Oh,
it was a very closed door environment. Like you had a training. That you'd go and you do the training, and then everybody had offices, closed door.
Did they have floor time still?
They had floor time, but it was always like the senior agents, not really the rookies. And
that Remax? Sorry to interrupt. Is that Remax's usually their model? Is that how it? I know how everybody kind of has their own model.
That's how their model was then. I don't know what it's like now. I think it's still pretty much that same way.
Yeah, get them in, introduce them to the real estate, help them along the way, but they're not going to maybe stay. They'll kind of,
the people that were there had been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Had been in a long time. So for when I went in, they're like, okay, we're going to get new agents and we're going to give them this plan. And if they pass the plan, they go to the next tier.
Gotcha.
Well, I think I graduated from like that plan like right away, and I remember my mentor or whatever was like, coach was like, wait, you're not there yet. Like you had to sell a certain amount of gross income to get to that next year, and he's like, you're not. It was like $100,000. Like make your first 100,000 and then go to the next year. And I was like, made it by like June or something.
Too quick for you.
Yeah, too quick.
That's what they were like. No, yours too quick.
You're too quick. So back up a little bit. I had gotten my license in March.
Yeah.
That same month of March, my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Yeah.
And they told her she's gonna pass away. It was just devastating. And I thought, I'm gonna quit real estate. I'm just gonna stay in my relationship and just, was just tough. So I was already selling real estate, but when it came like continuing, I didn't really want to continue. I was like probably depressed or going through, hard time. And I remember my brother telling me, like, why are you gonna quit? Like, mom wouldn't wanted you to quit. And I thought, you're right. My mom would have never been a quitter.
She wasn't a quitter, yeah.
She was not a quitter. I'm not ever. So I'm like, you're right. So then I just propelled it to like full throttle. And I'm like, I'm out of this relationship. I made up my mind. Out of this relationship. I'm done. I'm going to prove the world that I can do this. Because the ex-husband at the time was like, oh, you're not going to do this. Just, you suck. You're this, you're that. You're not good enough. You got little kids. All these negative ideas. And you believe it. You believe it.
Of course, yeah.
You believe it. So then you're like, no, my mom would have wanted me to. So then I just, boom, just went. And then the broker was like, where did this come from? Like, you sold this, and this, and this, and it just became a top producer. Like, right out the gate. Even like, I remember my mom was in the hospital. I'd take my laptop with me to go, like with her chemo treatments. I would go and take my laptop with me. And I already had business going, like, from the get-go. Like, already just talking to people. I'd be at the grocery. Hey, do you want to buy a house? Hey, do you want to buy a house? Hey, do you, like constantly like asking people, just talk to anybody. Just, hey, you chime in on people's conversations, you know. So where do you live? Tamara, where do you live? Do you own a house?
Yeah.
So,
if you don't start the conversations, they never end up, I mean, like you said, you could hear all these no's.
Yeah.
But those one or two yeses, that's it. That's all you need.
Here's my card. Here's my card. So it was just, business and just I started doing really good. And I got confident in myself and I said, yeah, you know what? I can do this. I can do this on my own. If he wants to leave, he can leave. Go, at that time, my oldest son, which he had raised, which was his stepson, he had raised him, since he was 5. He ended up going to Texas with him. The second oldest, which was his son, he joined the military. And I stayed with my 2 younger kids, my 2 boys, because at that time we had 4.
Yeah.
And my third oldest, he was in middle school. My youngest one was in preschool, and that was tough. Like, that was I was up in Valley Center. We had like a 3-acre large property, and there was coyotes coming into the yard. There was snakes.
Oh man.
There was we got broken into once. It was just really hard.
Is this the one where you had the horse?
Yes. So there I had gotten horse.
Not in your kitchen.
One of my first commission checks, I bought myself a horse.
Oh, nice.
But she's a single mom at this point again, right?
Yeah, so I'm a single mom at this point. In this big property.
Who does that?
Yeah.
Only Angie.
Only me. And so I'm like, I can do this, right?
I can handle a horse.
Yeah, right? I can do this. I was single mom for a couple years, raising my kids, going through, all these things, picking them up, dropping them off. My baby, he was in like kindergarten at that time, or preschool kindergarten. And I remember the every Wednesday, for a random Wednesday in the month, they would get home. They'd be let out at like noon.
Yeah.
And I was out selling
It's still
property.
like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
The half day Wednesdays.
so
That's tough, yeah.
it is so annoying. So I'd forget. I was a single mom juggling everything.
You're so me right
And
now.
I know. And
Sound just like me.
they would call me. The nurse would call me and she'd be like, Angie,
Your son's still
did you
here."
forget again?
Oh my gosh, that's happened to me. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'd be showing property in like Rancho Bernardo, and I lived in Valley Center.
Well, this just goes to show, like, everybody out there who thinks that this is such a glamorous, occupation, that you're working 24/7.
You
Like
are.
you're
picking up the phone when
there might be some the flexibility that you think that there is there. Like, I know there's another guy on this that was saying, like, he surfs all the time. His buddy's like, oh, how do I have your job that you get to go and surf? And he goes, but you also didn't know what I did for the first 10 years of my life, grinding in an office to get the business that I have now. And for you, you're not even only doing that, you're juggling 4 kids around.
And a horse.
And a horse. On your own.
On my own. Yeah, eventually I ended up having 2 horses, and then I ended up selling them, and I was like, I can't keep up, and prioritize the kids. I mean, I can't even pick up the kids at that point. So
You need to get the horse to pick up the kids.
I know, right? I know. Haven't programmed like the drone. Come on, AI drone, go pick up the kids.
Yeah.
So then at that time, my older son, he was 15 and a half, 16, started, driving, go pick. That was so helpful.
I loved when that happened to me.
Yeah. my baby, the youngest one, he had a cell phone in kindergarten. He'd be like, Mom, are you going to pick me up?
Yep.
He'd be like, he's like, everybody would look at me like, wow, you have a cell phone? This is what, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's like, I have to be, going, pretending like I'm going to the,
But that was when it could all just only be cell phone. I think, you know what I'm saying? There was like maybe a text, but there are no games on there really.
No games. And so, I mean, it was quite a time. So I did that for a couple years, and then I found my one true love.
And I love the story of how.
And he didn't get to be here today, but let's, because I wanted to ask you both, because there's always the 2 different stories,
Yes.
Okay, so how'd you meet him?
So, funny thing is that
so
my
funny.
sister had known him for like 12 years prior to me meeting him.
Yeah.
And she would always talk about him. And so, when we lived in Valley Center, it was a very strict relationship where ex-husband wouldn't let us go anywhere. I couldn't even go to baby showers. It's like, no, you're not going to go there. You can't do this. You can't do that. Very closed door.
Yeah.
The kids couldn't have, friends over. Very close. So couldn't go anywhere. I didn't have any friends. It was just very controlling.
Yeah.
And so I could never take the kids, to a pool party where my sister's like, yeah, bring the kids. So Jae would have a pool. He lived in Escondido, had a pool, and he was neighbors to my sister's best friend. And so then she's like, bring the kids over. We're going to go swimming at Jay's house. Bring the kids over. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen or whatever. So finally, like, when we get finally he's out in Texas. I filed for divorce. We've been separated for a couple of years now. We're not getting back together. We get a divorce. It's official. We're divorced and everything. And, I'm, just thinking, what am I going to do for Thanksgiving with the kids, my 2 younger ones, because the 2 older ones are out of the house. The oldest one is up in Texas with him, and the second one is in the military, the Marines. And I'm like, she's like, my sister's like, oh, we're gonna go to Vegas. Why don't you bring the kids with you? I'm like, well, finally I can bring the
Finally,
Pause.
Yeah.
Why don't you bring the kids with you to Vegas on Thanksgiving? Who
Hey,
does that?
You know what?
Angie does.
I know.
Angie does.
Oh, so this is the best part of the story. Yeah.
So I take my kids, pack up my stuff, and at that time, my second oldest, he was at the Marine Corps in Camp Pendleton. We wait for him to come home, and we drive up to Vegas, and we check in, and I'm checking in to the hotel, and my sister's there already with all her friends. They have like a big group of people. They're big partiers, and Jay's a big partier with them. He's hanging out with them.
But mind you, wait, she's never met Jae.
I've never met him.
I've never met him. His name from his sister.
Yeah, my sister, and then a couple of other single people were supposed to go, because then somebody said, well, you're a new divorcee. Why are you going to be hanging out with a bunch of married couples? And my sister's like, oh, no, there's a couple of single people that are going to go. Jae had been married before. He was recently divorced. She's like, oh, Jae, our buddy Jae's just divorced, and he's going to be there. He's single, and his buddy so-and-so and some other girl. And I'm like, oh, I know the girl. I'll hang out with them. They're,
You'll
single
hang out
people.
the single crew.
People. The single crew.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll do that. So we get to Vegas, and I'm standing there in the lobby, and down the elevator comes my sister's husband and their friends, neighbors, the people that I already know. And then there's this other guy that's walking down the elevator with them, and he's like, they're like, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for my son. I didn't say my son. I said his name. I'm waiting for Johnny to park the car. And the guys are like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And then Jae goes, hi, I'm Jae. Let me back up. So he says, gets out of the elevator, and he says, hi, I'm Jae. And I'm like, I look at him like, you're Jae? Like,
The Jae?
I was like, it was like love at first sight. I was like, you're Jae? I always thought Jae was like this older guy because my sister is like almost 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking this guy is like this older guy named Jae. I don't know. I just thought
You just had a different picture.
sitting by the bay, you know.
JJ.
Like, he's just sitting by the bay. And I was just like, he just shook my hand real firm. He's a clean cut guy. Just, you know, smelled good. I was like, you're Jae? And he's like, I'm Angie. And then they're like, his story is that they were up in his room, you know, drinking, having a good time in Vegas. They were going to come down to the lobby to go meet me, Susanna's younger sister.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have a sister? And she's like, yeah, I have my little sister. And he's like, how old is she? 1? And like, how come I've never met her? And Mrs. like, oh, you know, she doesn't go out much or whatever. My sister's like, didn't think anything of it, right? So Jae's thinking, probably just this young girl or something.
Yeah.
But then he sees
very,
me.
very homely and never does anything.
Yeah.
A bore.
Right? So then he's like, you're Susanna's sister? Like, where have you been, you know? So then it was just like instant, like, boom, like, just connection, fireworks.
Instantly.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, where have you been all my life? And so then my brother-in-law said, what do you, so then he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm waiting for Johnny to park the car. And Jae says that his heart just sunk.
Stop. Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, oh, she's got a man. So Johnny's her man. And then I'm like, yeah, as soon as he's here, we'll go and I'll go meet you. I'll check the kids into the room. I'll go meet you guys at the bar, right?
Yeah.
So they walk away and my brother-in-law nudges Jae and he's like, dude, Johnny's her son. She's single. And so Jay's like,
yes.
Oh my God, really? So then I check the kids and I go back to the bar and I'm looking for the single group or whatever. And they didn't show up. It's just Jae. Jae ditched everybody.
That's right. None of the singles showed up.
Universe works in mysterious
I know.
ways.
Right? And Jae was about to retire from the Navy. He had 6 days.
Yeah.
It was Thanksgiving weekend, November 24th. He was going to retire November 30th. And he's like, yeah, I'm already like on vacation mode because, you know.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done. What am I going to go back to work? It's Thanksgiving weekend. Then it's like 2 days.
It's Christmas by then.
Christmas by then. So he's like, yeah, I'm done. So then we were, the whole entire night, we just talked and gazed into each other's eyes like.
Oh, wow.
He's like, his story's like, where have you been all my life? My story's like, where have you been all my life?
Yeah. It's crazy how you had to go through such hardships to get to the right person.
Right?
That's so amazing.
And to think that he went through his whole Navy career, 20 years, 13 deployments.
Yeah.
And around the world, he had, bad relationships, a bad marriage, divorce. He was raising his son on his own. He has a son that's now 26 years old, a son, raising him, watching him from during, when he was home from deployments. Yeah. It was always big parties at Jay's house because he'd come home from deployments. I didn't know that. But it was because Jay would come home from deployments and they, bring down the house,
Yeah.
Big party. And so it was just incredible how our lives aligned at that moment. And
timing is
timing, because if I would have met him 10 years before or even months before, even when I was in a previous relationship or when he was in a previous, it wouldn't have worked.
It would have worked, yeah.
If he would have, I tell him now, if I would have met you when you were in the military, I probably would have not allowed you. I probably would have said, you're getting out. You're not going to retire. You're not going to make it. I need you home now,
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. Your story is so inspiring because there's a lot of people that get out of bad relationships and unfortunately go through such a depression that maybe they take their own lives if they do something. But it really shows that, you can find someone at any time in your life. You just have to be open to it and just.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, you just have to, you say you're looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah, right. And you find it, it just shows up right in front of your face sometimes. And it's incredible.
You just never know where it's going to happen. And sometimes people overthink it, we weren't really he had sworn to himself, I'm never going to get another relationship again. I'm never going to be married. And I had said the same thing. I'm done, and we just clicked so well. And ever since then, our lives have been just propelled, like what we've done. And we've been together. Last year was our 10th year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
And what we've done in 10 years is just huge of what we've done in the past
like
20.
Yeah.
The past 20 years that we had been in, just wandering through the world, trying to figure out, trying to get to the right relationship. But once we got to the right relationship, what we've done in 10 years is like been incredible.
Yeah. That's crazy. And I everybody who was supposed to be here today, and I did stalk his Instagram, but if you want to know what love is to your significant other, check out this man's Instagram, because it's all about, it really is. It's just you, because you can tell how
He loves
madly
you
in
so
love
much.
is. And because he does real estate as well. He's on your team. Let's kind of go into that, because you're like, you know what? I got this. What made you start your own brokerage?
So again, I mean, I'm always looking for the next thing. Like I'm always just, I get bored easily. So I like challenges, So once I had mastered being a top producer, I was a top producing agent, working at Remax. And I had always seen that other agents would come to me like, how are you being so successful? How are you doing this? What are you doing? And I was always thinking outside the box, always innovating, pivoting, from my past experiences, from business, from relationships, always thinking about how to do it better or how to innovate. And I thought, well, I'm always doing this. I'm top producer. There was ideas that I had that I would bring to my broker, and my broker would be like, no, you really don't want to do that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. I'd been an entrepreneur since I was 25, my whole life. So I'm like, I want to be.
You were an entrepreneur. Let's
I
go
was
back.
gonna say, you were an
Let's go back to
entrepreneur
the
at 8.
macadamia
You
nuts.
were
Like
7. You were selling macadamia nuts.
Selling my Don Jesus's puppies.
And the puppies.
and puppies.
The puppies.
You've had it in you.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm so sorry.
So I was like, but I lacked the confidence, and there wasn't very many people that looked like me.
It's because the people that you surround yourself with early on, that's what the lack of confidence is.
Yes. The bad relationships.
Yeah, the men. I mean, I
know, right?
Like, stop holding these women. Stop holding these women down.
Yeah, and one thing that I learned from the bad relationships is, like, if a bad relationship is telling you all these things, all these bad things, bad things, but then you look at the other side of the scale, and your family loves you, your kids love you, people that love you, your clients or support you, and all these things, and you're like, why is it that I'm hearing these bad things from this person, but yet on this side, it's totally opposite?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I said, no, you're wrong. I'm not a bad person. I'm not this what you make me. I'm not inferior. I'm actually a badass, you know? Like, if I look at and you start really realizing, like, I'm actually pretty cool. Like, people want to be my friends. People want to hang out with me. My clients love me. I'm successful. I've been successful in businesses. Why should I be listening to this person? Yeah. But it just takes a long time. It takes some time. But so there was a lot of things that kind of really pushed me, and a lot of it is the lack of hold me back was the lack of role models. In 2006, when I started, there wasn't really any Latina brokers. Yeah. I'm a Latina broker. I never met a Latina broker in my life. It wasn't a thing. And it was very corporate business. These are the brokers. Mm-hmm. And
very different.
Very different. And, I got involved with NAREP, National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Just butchered their name.
National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
And I got involved with them, and I saw, like, there's other people that are like-minded individuals that are, entrepreneurial mindset. And I got really involved with them. I opened up the chapter in North County. San Diego, was a founding president, had a team, developed leadership skills, met so many people that were running their brokerages, and they were Latinos. And then I got to meet some Latinas from across the country. And I was just like, wait a minute, you're a broker? Like, you're running your, and I was just like, wow, you know, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So I met another person. I met this huge individual. Her name is Nelly Galan. She became a huge inspiration to me because she has this whole presentation on being, she came to speak at one of the NARP events. And she has this whole thing about make it, a lot of lines she has, like make your own chips, you know, which was, I had already figured out. So I really, you know, figured that out. She said, kill Prince Charming. So this fantasy life of like trying to pursue this Cinderella, someone's gonna come sweep you up in a you know, white stallion and take you away and put you in a castle and take care of you.
Well, we talked about there, you know, it's like kind of what society put you in this box and mold you, and this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have kids at this age. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to be at home. You're supposed to, you know, it's like
a white picket fence, and this is what we're supposed to have. And
all the movies we saw, all the shows we saw were all that way. The man driven out there doing the thing, and then the women was just kind of like, you took care of the house. Yeah.
So yeah, that was like my expectation. But because I had such bad relationships that I was like, why have I been waiting for someone to, you know, take the reins in my life or my business or anything? And obviously I've never really waited on anybody, but it just kind of resonated with me, like, aha, like my next step was to become a broker, but I doubted that feeling of myself, like, okay, I can do this. But once I went to that, presentation, what do you call it, speaper?
Yeah, speaker, yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
the
event. And I was just like blown away. So I made a really good connection with her. And so a year later, so I went back to my hotel room. I was like, I'm going to become a broker. Like, that's it. Like, I always have these aha moments, like, I'm going to become a broker. Like, I just need like that little glimpse of like, inspiration.
I was thinking about it when you were speaking earlier. It's like you do like a to-do list in your head, and you don't do anything until that's like checked off.
Yes.
Like it sits there, like wherever we just make a list during the day, and you're like, oh, okay, I missed that one. But you are like, it's in there.
It's in there. And so I'll talk about this in a bit, but I am also in a book called Latinas in Real Estate, Volume 2. Just came out last year. I'm one of the co-authors or co-collaborators. I share my story in there. It's on page 32, and I've given you a book. Yes. You have a book, and a little glimpse of my story. But I have one of the ideas of that book was to, you know, help women empower themselves in either a relationship, get out of relationships, or start a business or whatever. And they wanted us to kind of give a pathway. And I literally wrote that. I said, write down your goals and memorize them.
Yeah.
And don't give up until you're done.
Yeah.
And like what you said, I put this checklist, or, you know, I set my goals and I said, this is what I want to do. Yeah. 1, 2, and 3, and check 1, done. Check 2, done. Check 3, done. And until I get that checklist done, I'm done, you know, on to the next thing. But so I met this lady, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to become a broker. I'm going to be a broker. A year later, I'm a broker. I go to her event again, and I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, I was here a year ago. And to this, like, literally that weekend, me and Jae had moved in together. We're getting married. Life is grand. And I'm like, go, 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 go. And he's huge supporting me, a huge supporter, just my biggest cheerleader, just like, go, go, go. And I'm like, okay, this is what I needed my whole entire life. Someone to just say, I got you. Yeah. Like, I'm not questioning you.
Not holding you back.
Not holding you back. If this is what you want to do, do it.
It's putting you up, like,
Yes.
Putting you on this, on this, not even on a pedestal.
Not a pedestal, but like leading, like just helping you, like being like, it's okay.
He's just a good leader. That's as a man, without demeaning nothing. He just...
And he doesn't get intimidated by me. It takes a certain type of man.
It really does.
Right.
To deal with my personality.
Not be intimidated by a successful woman.
from a successful
woman.
Well,
we've always said this. We always need older men in our lives because they mature a lot slower.
Yes, right, yes.
Yeah.
So then it's like, you know, this is great because Jay's there. He's like, yeah, if you want to get your broker's license, go ahead. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to take a year off. So I took a year off, not necessarily from selling, but I left Remax and I went to a smaller brokerage to see if my business would change.
Yeah.
To kind of just test the waters. I'm like, okay, while I'm working on my broker's license, let me see if this is going to really affect my business. And it didn't. It was me. I was me. Me was me. My clients were the same and my business was the same. And the company didn't define
you
me.
as a
It defined
businesswoman.
what I put into was who I was.
Yeah.
And my work ethics and my perseverance was what made me. And so I was like, okay, then I can do this. And so I, went through it. A year later, got my broker's license, opened up my office. I let Nellie know. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I did that. I'm like, yeah, you inspired me to take the next step. She put me in her book, Self-Made.
Yeah.
Showcased on there, bestseller. She's an ESPN Telemundo host.
Okay.
And she is an Emmy Award winner. She created, I don't know if you guys remember the show The Swan, but she won an Emmy Award for that, TV producer.
Oh, wow.
So she's produced over 700 TV shows, including telenovelas. ESPN Telemundo hired her to go down to South America and branch up, ESPN. All these accolades she has, wonderful. She's on, social media, huge mentor for me because I'm like, okay, we as women, we really don't have very many people to look up to. Like, I remember thinking, like, when we were working with NARIP, who can I, they said, who would you guys like to hear? And I remember saying, I would like to hear a successful woman speak. And if you look at it to this day, to count the successful women speakers, you can barely count them with one hand.
Well, you had Oprah who broke the mold. And so like that was like your first glimpse of like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Full
circle.
Full circle. So then, here I am, a brokerage, starting, ground zero, opening up, branding, logos, marketing, recruiting, just all this new, starting a business.
Yeah.
Which I love.
All the things.
All the things I love to do.
It's so crazy because I love these podcasts because they do come full circle. So we go back to the time that you wanted to be a teacher. And realistically, you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Becoming a broker, you fulfilled that. You checked that box off because now you're just a mentor to new agents. You knew going in how what could be changed. As a brokerage, like a Remax and stuff like that. And so you implement that, like all those challenges that you went through, you've learned and you've grown. And so how big is your team now?
I have close to 20 agents. 20 agents.
Okay.
And we did do a little bit of a cutback.
Yeah.
It was a little bit bigger. But during the last quarter, I really, really wanted to focus on agents that were really 100% committed and were like-minded like me, that were go-getters, so that I could commit my time and my energy to them and focus on them. And so that's my next segue. This is my 10th year as a broker.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've been through trials, figuring this, what works, what doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work. And I think, this last quarter, I realized, like, I saw the writing on the wall. The market is changing. I am spinning my wheels. I really want a strong team that stands beside me, that I can mentor, we grow together, and continue to attract agents that are also willing to work as hard as we do.
Right.
Because
and nothing against people who had to leave or you let go. It's just that it's not the fit for them, and then they can grow elsewhere, and it's just
exactly.
I love that. I love that you're building a strong community.
Nothing personal. It was just this is direction we want to go. This is what pivot. Pivot.
Yeah, pivot.
Pivot. You're constantly pivoting and trying to think outside the box. Market is changing. This is going to change. Where do we go from here? What's happening? I'm constantly just evaluating situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on all your success.
Thank
This is
you.
amazing. And You know, it doesn't seem like it, but we've been here for an hour and a half.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
Yeah. I love it. But before we
No
go,
wonder why my legs are numb. But I didn't realize. I don't feel like we've been here
I want to
forever.
throw something else out there.
Of course,
you
yes,
talked
yes.
about the teaching and
Yes.
the mentoring. So not only it's such a satisfaction for me to mentor my agents and my team and everything, I'm still producing. I'm still out there working with buyers and working with sellers. And right now we have a transaction, first-time buyer, mobile home in Hemet. And I love that because I'm a young couple, you know, first home. And it's like, for me, it's such a rewarding experience or satisfaction to be able to just teach them about home ownership.
Yeah.
And being able to say, like, this is a foundation you're gonna give to your family. Just that foundation that my family first started when they got their first home, that pride in my mother's eye when she got her home. I love that, you know, and New Palace Realty, we've, you know, copyrighted New Palace Realty, making home dreams happen. It's a trademark, you know, line where we, you know, because we're so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about it.
No, you have a team that's pretty darn passionate too, and it comes
Yes.
from great leadership.
It does come from
I'm
great
so
leadership,
proud of you,
especially
Angie.
young agents who come out. You know,
Yeah.
you really don't develop your own style of selling, but you start off by mimicking who you're being trained by,
Right.
and that goes to show like how good you are. Like people are going to look up to you, and whether they move on, because you know you want people, you don't want people to stay with you forever. You want them to build and do their own thing, and so they're going to take, and they're always going to remember how fantastic you are and such a leader you've been.
Right, exactly. And on that, you know, I always tell my agents, we never want to be stagnant. Never want to be stagnant.
Yeah.
So I push my agents, work on your broker's license. I want to have other offices where I have a broker associate. You know, you've been with my company for 10 years. Let's partner up and open up an office. I have 2 agents right now that want to join a team in the LA area. They're looking to get, you know, their broker's license and work on expanding. And, you know, that's my next horizon. Like, you know, that aspect of it, like growing, partnering up with broker associates that we can, you know, we've already laid the foundation, the groundwork, the branding, the marketing, the relationships, everything, where now it's just building from that. And where do, you know, continue going, where do we go from here? Where do we go
What's
from
next?
What's next?
What's
next? That's right.
Hey, what's next?
So one last thing before we kind of we wrap this up here. I don't want to, because this has been amazing. Tell me a little bit about, and you guys are last year's champions, Battle of the Brands, right?
Yep.
Battle of the Brands. Let's
And there's
hear
a new
it.
one coming up
Yes.
soon.
Yes, this month.
So last year we were invited to the Battle of the Brands with Nara Temecula, and we won.
What events are in there?
So it was like kind of like a Family Feud type of questions, and so there was 4 teams. It was us and 3 other teams, and they would ask questions like, you know, how many square feet in an acre?
That's so fun.
You know,
That's crazy, because
right?
I mean, we don't know until you like off the top of your
43,560.
You better know it, 'cause you
I
gotta
knew
calculate
that.
it.
I knew that answer to that's 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
It's 7-Eleven. You know, what does you know, LLC stand for?
Yeah.
You know, limited liability company.
Yeah.
There were some contract questions too.
There were
Yeah.
some contract questions.
That's very cool.
Yeah, what was the highest priced home in where was the highest priced home sold for? And so you had to raise your little flag.
Where was it?
It was in Los Angeles, California last
Okay.
year. $290 million.
What?
Yeah.
$290 million? Oh,
In the
wow.
world. That's been the most expensive
in the
property.
world.
And I answered it right. So
Oh my gosh.
so next week they're doing it's not a rematch, but we're defending title.
Yeah, defending.
We're defending
Yeah,
champions.
of course, you got to go out.
So that we did a second annual, and they invited us to come back, and they're going to do it a little bit different now. They're going to have 8 teams, is from what I've been told.
Oh, good. It's
And
growing.
So it's growing. So
That's
they're
cool.
inviting 4 of the real estate brokerages. No, 7 of the real estate brokerages, and they're going to do like two teams or 2 rounds, and then whatever the last 2 rounds are, we're playing them, the finalists.
Well, it better be fair, because I'm unfortunately not going to be able to be to this one.
I
And I was your
know.
biggest cheerleader.
Yes.
And they were so good at their flags. It was all about.
Oh, it's all you had to pick up the flag.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my biggest fear, like not raising up my flag fast enough.
You guys were good.
Yeah,
it was
so
great.
we were
It was
trying,
fun.
just being quick.
You're not competitive at all.
I am
She's not at all competitive. No.
I'm a middle child.
Oh yeah.
So
She had to fight for everything.
I had to fight for everything.
Yeah.
The attention,
Your
food,
whole life you've been
Clothes,
fighting.
a bed, what size
bed.
bed, blankets. You had
Yeah.
to fight for everything.
You know, it's like
I love your journey. This is great. So we're gonna have to do round 2 of this because there's so much more that you can tell us. You had so much wisdom out there, and thank you again. Thank you
you're
again
welcome.
for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
We really
T,
appreciate you.
you.
Yes.
Tamara,
much.
New Venture Escrow. You guys
Thank
are
you.
amazing.
We're so
and
blessed
this
by
is,
you.
this is fun.
Yeah. See, this was fun. This was
Yeah.
nothing to be,
Yeah.
nervous about. You are an inspiration.
We got to do it
You know-
again, and we'll bring Jay. 'cause
Yeah, we'll do a little couples
He's a
couples
funny
one.
guy.
This is so
Yeah,
good.
I know. He's got his whole military experience that he brings to the table.
Yeah.
I'm the visionary. I'm all over the board. It's so funny because I'll say something, and even before I'm like almost done, like saying the idea, he's already looking it up, typing it in,
love it.
figuring out. He's like, I walk around with a tool belt for you.
Yeah,
Really-
yeah.
He's the best support to you, though.
He's
really.
your AI.
He's my
Yeah, he's your AI. I love it. I love it.
Because he's like constantly, okay, you said, what did you say you needed? Like, or, anything. I'll send him a picture of your new drone. He'll order it. Bam,
love it.
done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, done.
Very cool.
So he's always super supportive.
Well, awesome. Look in this camera word and tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay.
Yes.
You can find me at the Padre game.
I know.
That's what I was
that's
saying.
the truth.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You'll
so
find her
we're
at the
big
budget.
Padre fans,
Okay,
and
good.
so we're there a lot.
A lot.
But we work hard, we play hard.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we're you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, Angie Henry, New Palace Realty website. You can find me at either office, San Marcos, or Temecula, Old Town. You can find me at the wineries.
At the wineries. Beautiful.
I'm just a
She's a fun
person.
person.
Good.
I
She is.
love living life. I love just enjoying.
Yeah.
She really does.
Well, that's why this team works so well.
Yes.
You too. So
We love getting
Cheers.
together.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Well, I appreciate you again.